Good morning, students. How are you doing all? I hope that you would have read the chapter, understood the content or the essence of the chapter, and were able to answer the questions asked or given in the assignment. So, without taking much of the time, let's proceed the reading further. So, we have completed comprehension check 2. Okay, and now we are going to proceed thereafter. In life, every man has twin obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. So, in such a ease, he said that every man has twin obligations in his or her life. One obligation is to his family. He is responsible for his family, his parents, his wife and the children. And the second obligation, he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Okay, so he said that every man is capable of, or every man has the capable to perform both the obligations towards his family and towards his country, people and the nation. But it depends on your or on his or her own inclination, means natural tendency or the behavior, on their behavior as well as on their abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. So he said that it was not easy for him to fulfill both the obligations. What kind of the problems he had faced? I think we are going to we are going to read about it further, that what kind of the complications or the problems he faced while achieving his targets. Let's read now. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man of color means dark, who is having the dark complexion, who tempted to live his life as a human being, who wants to freely live his life. He was being suppressed, he was being punished, and he was being isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. So this was the oppression he faced, not only from the society, from his own family members. In South Africa, a man means he is talking about himself, who tried to fulfill his duty to his people. To his people means not his family members. To his people means for the black community. Who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family. Unavoidably ripped means cut out from his family, his home, and forced to live a life apart. You need to cut yourself. You need to detach yourself from your family, from your mother, from your parents, from your wife, from your children, and you need to learn an isolated life. Okay, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. And what was that? It was the light of existence of secrecy and rebellion. Rebellion means what you can call it, Hindi is known as withdraw. Okay, when you are aggressive and when you don't weigh the pros and cons of anything. I didn't know in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, a brother, a father and a husband. Now he was in a great dilemma, that to what to give more importance, to the people or to the family, or how to choose, how to make a decision to place the people above the family. But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Did you get it? But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation. What was his duty to perform as a son, as a brother, as a father, and as a husband? He was not able to perform those duties or his obligation towards his family while performing the duties towards or the obligations towards his country or the, what you can say, to serve his people. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. Free to swim in clear stream that ran through. Where it has been skipped. Just let me find out, because the video was being interrupted by a notification on the screen. I will take 1 minute more. Okay, I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free in every way. He said that I was not born with a hunger to be free. It was not an appetite or for a strongest or an ardent desire to get freedom. He was born free in every way that he could know. He was free to run in the fields near his mother huts, and free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast meals under the stars and ride the broad backs of the slow-moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or the court. Now he is saying, as soon as I was playing the role of an obedient son, or I was, what you can say, following all the rules and regulations or abide by all the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled neither by the laws, nor by the society, nor by the God. So that means still he was following the instructions, or what you can say, till he has adopted the customs or abided by the rules and regulations prevailing in the society or in his tribe. Everything was going on smoothly. He had the freedom to go and roam in the fields around his mother's hut. He had the freedom to swim into the clear stream. But when it was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. But students, this particular paragraph is very, very important. Okay. I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. When he was a child, let's say 10, 12 years old child, he was not being asked where he was going. Whatever he wants to do, whatever he wanted to do, he was allowed to do. And thus the definition of the freedom for the boy or the child was this much only, that nobody is forcing me any opinion or any wish on him. He is free to do, or he was free to do whatever he wanted to do. But soon as the boy gets matured, he came to know that his boyhood freedom was an illusion. Illusion means imagination, something that appears to be real but it is not real. In Hindi we call it Brahm. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken away from me, and I began to hunger for it. But when he became a young man and he thought that my freedom had been, his freedom had been already been taken away from him, he began to chase, or he began to look or quest for this, or he began to hunger for it, that I want my freedom, mujhe meri freedom chahiye. Now we will see what is the new definition of a freedom. In the childhood, his definition was that if he want to roam in the fields, he should be allowed. If he want to swim into the stream, he would be allowed. So that freedom was there. But when he became mature, he was longing for another level of freedom. Now what freedom was that? At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. The transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I choose. Now when you come into the middle age group, then the definition of freedom gets changed. Now what was the meaning of freedom for him? The transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night. That if I want to stay out at night, that freedom should be given to me. Like sometimes you have that I want to spend a night with my friends and your parents force you that you can't go to. And second one, read what I pleased. Whatever the stream you wanted to opt, you can opt. Whatever you want to read, you can read and go wherever I choose. Before going somewhere, you don't need to seek permission. So that kind of that became the meaning of freedom for Mr. Nelson Mandela in the middle age of his youth. Later on, as a young man, when he became a young man, in Josenberg, I yearn means wished for, strongly longing for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of keeping my keep, of marrying and having a beautiful family or having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So when he became an adult, a young boy, now again the definition of the freedom gets changed for him. For now, what was the meaning of freedom? To have or achieve basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, that whatever my potential is. Then he became career oriented. You have some career aspirations, you want to excel in your career or in your life. What you after achieving the targets or the aspirations of career, you want to get married to a beautiful man or the woman, in case we are talking about a boy or a girl. And then after that, the next step is to have a beautiful family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Such kind of the freedom, then there is no obstruction in your lawful life. But when I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. But again, after passing that stage too, he came to realize that not only he, but also his brothers and sisters, they were also not free. When there is a big discrimination between the blacks and the whites, you are not allowed to enter into the temples or the churches where the whites were supposed to. They are supposed to receive so many sarcastic comments. They cannot sit together, they cannot eat together, they cannot walk together. So what kind of freedom is that? Okay. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed. Curtailed means reduced or suppressed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. And now he realized that what was the meaning of freedom for him up to now, that is not the real or true meaning of the freedom. And that freedom is not for freedom for himself. That freedom is for the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger of my own freedom became greater hunger for the freedom. And that was the time when his hunger for the own freedom, became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, and that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, and that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. So what did he say that? That is what, after realizing the true meaning of the freedom, he decided to join African National Congress, ANC. That is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger. जो first उसका appetite था, hunger था, that was the hunger for my own freedom. Now it has become monstrous enough that he wanted the freedom for his own people, and it was this desire for the freedom of the people to live their life so that all the black community could live their life with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transformed him, a frightened young man, into a bold one, that drew a life-abiding attorney because he was into the law, and to become a criminal. He became a criminal in the eyes of the law because he was being arrested and put into the prison. That turned he was a what you can say family loving husband, but now he had turned into a man who did not even have a home, and that was forced to live a loving life man, like the person who was a life loving man who loves to enjoy all the pleasures and fun of his life. He was compelled, or he was forced, or he was turned to live like a monk. So this was the past and the present scenario of Mr. Nelson Mandela, how he was in his childhood, how did he uh, felt in his middle age, how he felt like a youth after getting married, after playing the successfully role of a good husband, a good father, a good son, and a good brother, that he became a person without having any home. I'm no more virtuous or self sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor limited freedoms that I was allowed. He was not ready to accept the freedom within his own community. Okay, when you are free, but in your own community. You are free in this room, but you are free, but you can roam only in this room. So what kind of freedom is this? Okay, you cannot meet anyone. Nobody is looking at you with tender love or respect or affection. So this kind of freedom has no meaning at all. It is just an illusion. So freedom is indivisible. The chains of any one of my people were the chains of all of them. He's saying that if any of my people was in chain, that were the not the chains on that particular people, that was the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me, or the chains on, just see the beauty of this line, the chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. If there is a chain, if you have curtailed the freedom of one person, that means you have curtailed the freedom of the whole community. And if the freedom of whole community has been curtailed, my own freedom has been curtailed. They were the chains on me. This was the thought process. This was the depth and the pure thought process of Nelson Mandela. He took the pain and agony of the black people as his own pain. I knew that the oppressors must be liberated just as surely as oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is being taken away from me. Very, very beautiful line. The oppressed and the oppressors alike are robbed of their humanity. I knew that the oppressors must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. Oppressor, those who are commanding. Oppressed, those who are being commanded. जो exploit कर रहे हैं, they are the oppressors, और जो exploit हो रहे हैं, they are being the oppressed. And he said that both of the strata require the freedom. दोनों को ही freedom की ज़रूरत है. Both are enslaved. A man who takes away the another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. A person who has snatched the freedom of someone else, he himself is a prisoner. वो खुद क्या है, एक prisoner है. किसका? Of hatred, jealousy. And he is locked behind, like we people are locked behind the bars. He himself is being locked behind the bars. And what is prison being made of? His prison is being made of hatreds, and he is behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. So both are being enslaved. The oppressors are being enslaved by the negative emotions like hatred, supremacy, and prejudice, and the narrow-mindedness. And those who are being oppressed, they are under a lot of tremendous physical, mental, and emotional pain. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. He said that if I have taken someone else's freedom, so I am also not free. Just as surely I am not free when my freedom is taken away from me. In both the case, you are not free. If you are snatching the freedom from others, still you are not free. And if someone is taking away your freedom from you, you are not free. The oppressed and the oppressors alike are robbed of their humanity. Both are being robbed of their humanity. Okay. जो dictators होते हैं, those who are authoritative, they are also under an oppression or a fear or a apprehension that what if the people will stop obeying them? What if the people will stop respecting them? What if the people would become what you can say, collect or accumulated and declare a revolt against them. So they are also under a different kind of fear 24/7, which robs their freedom of mental peace and what you can say, humanity or something like that. Okay, so both the oppressor or the oppressed are like robbed of their humanity. So this was a beautiful chapter by Nelson Mandela. Read the chapter and complete the assignment in your fair notebook. Hats off to you, the legend. Have a great evening.